Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn about the touch interface. In the previous video, we explored the Chaos Modular Vehicle system. We implemented this touch interface and we built it for Android. So if you haven't already, make sure you check the previous video out. But here we are going to see how the touch interface actually works. Also, we are going to have a look at how you can use your entire mobile screen to interact the camera, the yaw of the camera. Also, if needed, we can split the entire mobile screen to two halves. So the right hand side of the screen we can control the camera rotation. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so this is what we created in the previous video. We have the touch interface implemented and hence we can see the analog sticks. We can interact with the left and the right analog stick. We have the buttons over here and yeah, it works smoothly on Android device. So let us understand how the touch interface works. So for that you will first need to create a new touch interface. So go inside the content drawer, right click, and inside the miscellaneous you will find touch interface setup. So click on it and I'll create a new my touch interface. Alright, let's open this up. I'll bring this over here. Okay, so the touch interface, the asset type is the touch interface. We have the controls, array, active opacity, inactive opacity. So let us first add this inside our project settings. So go to edit project settings and here search for touch. Scroll down, at the end you will find inside the mobile section default touch interface. So select your touch interface and also click on always show touch interface. Set this to true, and inside the mouse properties you will find use mouse for touch. So enable this as well so that you can use mouse inside Unreal Engine to touch the buttons and interact with all of the touch interface actions. So you don't need to go back and forth for building the APK for Android and testing whether it is working or not. Alright, so we have added this touch interface. If I hit play, of course nothing happens, but we have the mouse. You can use WASD to control the car still. Alright, I'll open up my touch interface. Let us add controls first. So I'll hit plus to add a new index to an array. And here you will find treat as a button. If you do not select this, by default it will be set to joystick. So I'll set this to true first. Then we have the foreground image and image 2 is the background image. So I'll just select any of the image. So I found these images for free. So I'll select this image. So let's just select this plus image. Now the center represents the position of this button on the screen. So by default it is set to 0, 0, which is fine. Then we have the visual size. I'll come back to this just in a minute. Then we have the thumb size. So this is the real size of the image that you want. So if I just hit save and if I hit play, nothing is showed over here. So that's because the thumb size is actually the real size. So I'll set a default size like 100 is 200 in X and Y. I'll hit play and on the left top corner you can see the button, right? So that's the 0, 0 position. Let's open this up. So let's give the X value as 100 and the Y value as 100 as well. I'll hit save and let's check the output. So it is placed right over here. So that means, so from here this is 100 and from here this is 100. So if I want to place it somewhere around this side, so I need to multiply it by 5. So let's just set this 500. So 1 and 500, 100 and 500. So this is where it got placed. So let us place another one on the right hand side. Okay, so I'll create a new index. Let's open this up. Treat this as image as well. So I'll select this image. So center. So for this one, if I want to place it to the right hand side, so instead of just adding, so this was 100 around somewhere here, right? So this might be around 700 to 800. So instead of doing this, what you could do is just write minus 100. So from the right hand side it will be placed. So here I can set minus 100, and this we know it is 500. So let's hit save, and if I hit play, we need to give the size as well. So thumb size 100 is to 100. So here it got placed, which is perfect. Now also, instead of giving 500, we could also do minus 100 from the bottom. So it will be placed from below, right over here. So you can just use these numbers to set the button on the screen position. Okay, now let's see how we can interact with these buttons. So for that, you need to set the interaction size. So the interaction size should be the thumb size, basically the overall size of the button. So let's just first set this to 100 and 100, whereas this one I'll set it to like 10 and 10. Okay, so interaction size is from the measured outward from the center, right? So if I hit play, now this one I click, so yep, it is interacting, but it is actually floating. I'll get back to this reason. And this one, if I click anywhere, it is not interacting, but if I click to the center, it's working, because the interaction size from the 100 is the total image size. It is just 10 units. So this also I'll set to 100 and 100. Alright, now you found that the buttons were floating. It was because we need to select prevent recenter. So set this to true. So it is saying prevent joystick recentering and moving from center through user tabs. So just set this to true. And also active opacity and inactive opacity. So I'll just reduce the opacity this to 0.5. If I hit play, so yep, now you can click, but nothing's happening because we need to set what happens when you click on the button. So that you can set using the main input key. You can also give another input key, alternative input key. So let's first check how is this car moving. So when I press WASD, when I press W, it is throttling forward. If I press S, it is just braking. So let's open up the default pawn class. So throttling, set input axis, throttle. Let's go ahead and check the input mappings. So go to input, we have the input mappings. So when I press W key, it is throttling. So here I just need to set the main input key as W. So I'll just click on this button and I'll press W on my keyboard, or you can just search, but this is much easier. So I hit save, whereas this one I will press S. So I'll click on the keyboard button and press X. Same you can do for controller. So let's hit play. So if I'm pressing using my mouse, it is throttling forward. If I press this, it is braking. So that's working perfectly fine. If I press towards the outer edges of the button, it is working. If I press outside of the button, it doesn't work, whereas if I just press over here, it works totally fine. So that was a basic button that you can create using the touch interface. Let's see how to create the joysticks. So first I'll move these buttons at the top. So from here I can set this to like maybe minus 300, and this one also I'll set this to minus 300. Alright, hit save, and the buttons are shifted a bit upwards, which is fine. Let's add another index for analog sticks, the joysticks. So I will not select treat as a button because I want to treat this as the analog stick. Here we have the two images. So this one, as I said, this is for sticks, this is a thumb, so this will be the foreground image and this will be the background image. So this is the foreground and this one, image 2, is the background image. So BG and FG. Now the center, I'll set this X to 150 and minus 150. So from the bottom. All right, let's check this, but we have to give it a size because it won't appear. Now for this one we have two sizes, so the visual size will be the background image and the thumb size is the image of the foreground image. So the visual size, the background image, let's set this to 100 and 100 first, and let's see how this appears. So this is the background. Now let's give the thumb size, which is the foreground image. We'll give this size to like 50 and 50, right? So I'll hit play. So that's the foreground image. So if you are confused, we can change the foreground image to something else. So maybe some texture we have. Let's just choose this one. I'll hit save. You will find this one right over here at the top, which is the foreground image, right? So let's increase the size. So this one I set this to 180 and this also 180. This one, let's give this 80 and 80. I'll hit save. There you go. So the foreground image and the background image, we have thumb size and the visual size. Now we need to set the interaction size. So the interaction size will be the actual size of the visual size. That means the background image. So let me just set this to the foreground, and the input scale, the interaction size, here I'll set this to 180 and 180. So I'll hit save, and now you will find, so it automatically is working, which is nice, but we haven't even set the input key. So here you need to set the input axis. So I'll go back. So I'll go to the camera look. So this one is for the yaw and pitch of the camera basically. So using the gamepad left thumbstick basically. So if I go ahead and check for, yep, this one. So the right thumbstick. So let's go back over here. So here I will set this to the right thumbstick x-axis and the right thumbstick y-axis. So the main input key, so for the main input to send from the control, for sticks this will be the horizontal axis, which is the x-axis, and this one for the vertical axis. So as you can see, by default it is going to the look function, but I want this for steering. All right, so the steering, so if I go ahead and check steering, so it is left thumbstick, using left thumbstick. So I'll use left thumbstick over here for steering and the right thumbstick for look. So this one, just go to gamepad right, the left thumbstick for steering, left thumbstick x-axis, okay, and gamepad left thumbstick y-axis. Right, I'll hit save and let's see the output. So if I do this, won't be able to see the camera. Let's just also implement the right thumbstick as well so that we can rotate it and have a look. So this one is index 2. Let's click on another one, index. So same, or what you can do is, let me just go ahead and delete, and we can duplicate this index. So hit duplicate, and here instead of so this one minus 150, so from the right hand side and right thumbstick, so gamepad right thumbstick x-axis and right thumbstick y-axis. I'll hit save and let's hit play. So there you go, it is moving just fine, and also the steering moves fine. So by default it took the look, but we set the left thumbstick over here and the right thumbstick. So yeah, this is how you can implement the joysticks as well. Pretty easy. You can set this to any other image that you would like. So also make sure you set the interaction size. If I set the interaction size over here to like 50 and 50, right, so this is for the right hand side, so you won't be able to select this from over here. You need to select it from the center basically. So over here I'll set this to 180 again. So basically you can click from outside of that circle to interact right from here. If I click, it would work. Also, one more interesting thing is if you want to check how the controls would look like in different sizes of screen, so you can go ahead and inside the play option you can select the new editor window, and here you can scale the window and check how the controls would look like in different screens. And it is actually maintaining its size and the aspect ratio according to the screen's size and the aspect ratio, which is amazing. You can just scale it, any scale would just work fine, but yeah, it would depend upon the size of the buttons as well. So yeah, that is amazing. Now what if you do not want to use the right analog stick to look around? Instead of that, you want to use the entire mobile screen. You can drag on your screen to look around with the camera. So let's go ahead inside the blueprints to implement this. So I'll open up the blueprint which I'm using, so this car. So you will need to implement in all of the blueprints because you're using the camera input in all of the blueprints, so you'll have to do that as well. Okay, so the looking is happening with the help of these two things. So add controller pitch input to move up and down, and add controller yaw input to move left and right, and the enhanced input action look, which is the right analog stick basically, right? So instead of this, we need the actual input touch of the screen. So we have the event for that. So just search for input touch and go ahead, and you will find the input called it's just called touch basically. Yep, this one. So event for when a finger presses, releases, or is moved on a touch device. So we want to check whether the finger is moving or not. So let's bring this event. So when it is pressed, right, so let's print first. So print string pressed and released. Okay, so I hit compile. So pressed, release, pressed, released. Yep, that works fine. Let's see how moved works. So moving basically means you are dragging. So let's hit compile. So I'm moving the mouse and I released, clicked, moving, released. Now we also get the location and the finger index, so which finger you have pressed. So if your mobile, most of the Android devices are supporting the multi-touch. Some of them supports 5, some of them supports 10 finger index. So yeah, you can also check whether you're doing double press, single press, all of that you can use using the finger index. Now we are more interested in the location. So when we are moving, let's also print the location. So the location will actually is a vector. So let us append like moving, and here we'll print the location, right? Let's hit compile and we'll check. So pressed and it is moving. We are getting X, Y and Z. Because this is 2D, of course, so the Z is always 1. So we are not interested in Z. We are only interested in X and Y. So this is 0, 0. So if I press, and this one over here is the actual resolution currently I'm playing on, right? So this is 0, 0, and accordingly all of these buttons are placed, right? So this was like 150 around, so yeah, it is approximately, but yeah. So this is the values that we are interested in, with the help of which we will be using implementing the rotating of the camera. So let's start implementing that. So I'll just delete all of this. You can also check the finger index basically. So just moving touch 1, but yeah, you need to have more mouses over here, or you can just build and test it out and adding more fingers on your screen. Okay, so I'll just get rid of all of these. Now let us split this location vector. So right click and split struct. So it is split into X, Y, Z, but we are not interested in Z. We just want the X and the Y value of the screen. So let us create a new vector 2D using just the X and Y. So make vector 2D. So this will be the X and this will be the Y. Now when we are pressing on the screen, we want to store the start value, start location of when I'm pressing of the screen. So I'll go ahead and promote this to a variable, and let's name this like touch start position. So when I'm pressing, I will save the touch start position. Alright, next when I am moving, I will store another variable. So I'll promote this to another variable and call this as touch current position. So touch current position. Okay, so when I'm moving, this will be the current position and this is the start position. So whenever I'm touching first, it will store the start position, and when I'm moving, it will update into the touch current position. So we can just check this by printing. So right here, and we'll print string, and let's just append. So this will be the start. Alright, so this will print the start position, and let me hit Ctrl D to duplicate this right here, and this will print the current. Alright, hit save and let's compile and check this out. So when I click, this is the start and that's the current, and you see the current is changing and we have the start stored, right? And there we have the new start. If I click somewhere else, that's the new start. So how can we determine that how much is the value we want to rotate? We know that how we can rotate. We can rotate by adding yaw input and adding the pitch input, but by what value we can rotate this, right? So we want to update the yaw and the pitch when I'm of course moving the touch, right? When I'm dragging the my finger basically, right? So what will be the value by which we want to rotate? So for example, if I right click and let me just break this vector. So for example, if I directly put this into X and put this into Y, let's see what happens. So I hit play, it will just infinitely just rotate it, right? Which is not the solution. So how we will determine how much we have rotated. So we need to just subtract the start position, the current position and the start position, so that we know how much is the difference, how much you have moved basically. So what we need to do is, let me open this up. So the difference of both of them will be the actual difference of how much you have rotated. So what I'll do is, from this I'll subtract. So from the current position I will hit subtract, just use the minus sign. I'll subtract the start position. Okay, this will be the difference basically. So that we will know how much we have moved from the start. So from the start, how much we have moved, this much we have moved. So that value, that x and the y value will be the input of the yaw and the pitch. So the yaw is the x horizontal and the pitch is the y. So let's just place, so right click, I'll split this. So this will be the x and this will be the y. Let me just add more nodes to make this a bit neat. Let's bring this closer. Let's see what happens. Still one more thing is remaining. So this is working better than before, right? So if I'm in the x-axis rotating, which is fine, in the y-axis it is rotating as well. So as you can see, if I move my mouse up and down, if I move my mouse left and right, let's just use just yaw. So this moves, but what happens if I move right, it is moving. If I move left, so it is just adding again and again, it is just multiplying it, right, after subtracting. So what you need to do at the end, when you have completed the rotation, we're going to set the start position. So touch start position, because we are not resetting the start position when we have moved already. We need to reset it to the end current position basically. So here I'll set, hit compile. So after we have moved, I'll say that the start position is the current position. So hence we have completed moving basically. There you go, just like that. So here we have completed moving in the x and the y. It works really smoothly. Now if you want to control its sensitivity, you can basically multiply the sensitivity right before you're adding the yaw and the pitch. So here from the x, you can, let me just detach this, you can multiply and hit Ctrl D and multiply this as well. So this, let's promote this to a variable sense y, and this will be the sensitivity of x. Oops, the promote to a variable, right? And let's give this over here. This I'll attach here. All right, now just compile and give sensitivity over here. I'll just give this 0.1 and x 0.1 as well. So hit compile, save, and I hit play, and it is moving smoothly. Now if you ask me, what if I don't want to use the entire screen to rotate my camera, I just want the right hand side of the screen. So for that you need to first get the actual size of the screen. Alright, so let's open this up. So for that you need to determine what's the viewport size. So I'll get the controller So right click, you can get player controller, and from here you can get viewport size. Viewport size, this one, right? So here we have the X and the Y. Let's print and check what it returns. So print, and let's make, let's just, because this is an integer, so the X and Y, if I press, this is 2038. If I make this like a full screen, if I press 2050, like make it full screen, this will be the X resolution 2560, right? And hence Y will be also, it can print. So I click 1402, right? So this is the X and the Y. Now we need to find the center of the X, right? Center of the X, and we will determine the other side will be the right hand side, basically. So what we can do is, from the X we can divide. If I divide X by 2, okay, then we have the first half and the second half, basically. Now how can we define what's the first half and what's the second half? So from the location of X, so where have we pressed? Have we pressed on the left hand side of the screen, or have we pressed on the right hand side of the screen? So this is basically the center of the screen. Now the input touch location X, where your finger is pressed, from the value we are going to use truncate. So what truncate does, it will rounds a value towards 0, truncating the fractional part itself. So if the value is minus 1.6, it will become minus 1. If the value is 1.6, it will become 1. You'll ask me, how is this compared with floor value? So the floor value in the negative value is different. So the rounds a down towards negative infinity, down to the previous integer. If the value is minus 1.6, it will become minus 2. And 1.6 will become 1. So here in the negative, minus 1.6 will become minus 1. So that's the difference. Okay, so from this we can check if this is greater than this X, then we are sure that we are pressing on the right hand side of the screen. Okay, so if this is true, so we're just going to use branch. If this is true, we are going to create a new Boolean variable. So let's create a new variable. So is right side, and we are going to set this. So use Alt and drag and drop over here to set this. I can set this to true. Okay, now after that I will set the start position after calculating all of this, basically. So from here, let me just need this. So when I press, I will check where I am pressing. So from the size X divided by 2, and from the location where the X location where I'm pressing. So if that is greater than center, basically, then it is the right hand side. Okay, so here we just determined that we are pressing from the right hand side. When I release, I'll set is right to false. Okay, so here I'll set is right to false, so that we can recalculate again whether we are pressing from the left hand side or the right hand side, basically. Let me just move this. Right, so when we are moving, we are just going to check whether we are moving from the right hand side or not. Simple as that. So all of this, all right, so all of this, when we are moving, we are just going to check first. So using branch, so if we are on the right hand side, so use control to set the variable, hold control and use the left click mouse to drag and drop. So if this is right inside, that means we can control the camera. If not, we can just print and check. Basically it's left inside. Alright, so hit compile and let's check this out. So it's left inside, we are printing. Let me get back to viewport so that we can see the mouse. It's left hand side. From the right hand side we can control. This is center, so almost center, and this is the right hand side, and we can control it smoothly. So yeah, this is how you can use the right hand side of the screen to control your camera, and the left hand side it will just print. If you want to perform anything else using left hand side, you can do that. And now you can just disable this right analog stick. So you can go ahead inside your content and your touch interface. So this is the right hand side, yeah, right thumbstick. You can just delete this and you no longer need that right analog stick. Now I also wanted to implement one more thing, which is the camera lock. Now if I rotate the camera on the right hand side, and if I move the vehicle using my keyboard, and what if I want to lock the camera back over here? So we can also implement that. So I'll go inside my blueprint, and for that we will need another input mapping. So let's create a new input mapping. So I'll go ahead and create an input action first. So over here, let me just duplicate. So input action, switch camera. So this one right here, and here mapping, switch camera. So let's do this using C key. Alright, I'll hit save. So let's get back over here. So input action, switch camera. So when this is started, let's use flip-flop. So basically what we need to do is, in the camera boom, here we need to just uncheck this, use spawn control rotation. And so I'll get the camera boom, set use spawn control rotation. I'll set this to false, and here I'll set this to true. Right, let's hit save, and I'll use my keyboard. So press C. So there you go. I cannot do anything even if I'm using my right hand side of the screen. Left hand side it's printing, it's left side, but of course you cannot control. If I press C again, now I can control using my mouse, right? So that is also a useful feature. Currently we are not lerping between both of the views, but yeah. So also you can do one more thing in here, is currently you can see that it is really locked, or the camera is really locked onto the vehicle itself. So if I'm moving here, it is not actually giving that realistic moving of the vehicle, right? So you can go ahead inside skeletal mesh blueprint, and here inside the camera boom you can enable camera lag. So from here I'll set enable camera lag and rotation lag. So let's use both of them. So I'll set this to true, and also rotation lag, not get, we need to set. Set enable camera rotation lag. Duplicate this here, set both of them to false. Get the reference, right? And here we can give the value of the camera lag. So here I have given 10 and 10, so just you can keep that. And after you have set use spawn control rotation to false, you can also set inherit pitch to false. So here inherit pitch, so yeah, set inherit pitch, and here I'll set this back to true. Alright, now hit compile. So here we can move, press C. So there you go, you can get that, you can increase the camera lag, so it basically smoothens the camera rotation. And now you can see you can also get the pitch over here, right? So yeah, you can implement all of these features using this camera lock. You can play with the values of the camera lag to give it more smoothness according to you. Yeah. Now I just bring back my previous input action, the touch interface. So this is what I created previously. So I'll go to edit, project settings, touch interface. I'll select new touch interface, which is my previous one, and we can check again. So here this works, this doesn't work, only the right side works. But press C, it locks over here. And yeah, you can create a button for that as well. So I'll create a new button right over here to switch, so it is flip-flop, so you can switch back and forth. So that will be really simple. I'll just duplicate the settings, this one, yep. So just duplicate this. I'll change this to somewhat, maybe camera lock, seems fine. And this, let me decrease the size, maybe 60. All right, and this we can maybe put this at 70, and when I press C key on the keyboard, this happens. So hit play. We need to maybe 100, more than that. And interaction doesn't work. Let me check again. Press C key, and yep, everything else seems fine. So yep, it works fine. So I can switch using the button as well. But yeah, if I switch the vehicle, nothing works, because the blueprint that we have edited in is just inside that vehicle, right? So what you will need to do is duplicate whatever you have done in this blueprint right here to all the other blueprints. What you can do is convert this to a macro, collapse to a macro, and you can just duplicate this in the other blueprints, this and this, both of them. So yeah, I will do all of this, and then we will build the APK and test it on our Android device. So yeah, you just have to copy this camera look macro and go over here, right click, or just click and hit Ctrl V. Go ahead and create the variables. So right click, create variable, and all the other variables. Hit compile. I'll set the variable value 0.1. Of course, there is a much better way to do this, but I'm just going to copy this, paste this, just copy the input touch from here instead of searching. So yeah, here pressed, released, moved X and Y. So yeah, so everything, so all the vehicles here, let's test. So this one of course works. Lock, let's switch the vehicle. This works as well. We can lock the camera here. Let's switch to another vehicle. So this one also works. We can lock this camera as well. Let's switch the vehicle. So this one as well. So we can move the camera and we can lock as well. I think by default it was set to locked, but yeah. So we can switch the vehicle. So by default this is locked. We cannot move the camera, but you can move the camera because we are using flip-flop over there. So yeah, that's how you can control the camera as well. So yeah, now I'll just build and test how everything is working. So go to first, let's go over here in the project settings, Android. I have created a separate video for the Chaos modular vehicle, and also I've created a video on how you can set up the Android SDK and build your Android APK of any project, Unreal project. So for Unreal 5.5, right? I'm currently using 5.5.3. So refresh platforms, go to platform, Android, and let's create a shipping build for this. So Android and package project. So hit continue. Here I'll just create a new folder and rename this as maybe like new and select folder. So the build is successful. Here is the build and I have already installed it on my device. I'll just use scrcpy to showcase you the output. So here I am running it on my device, and on the left hand side I do anything, nothing happens. It is not printing because I have done the shipping build instead of the development build. Right, on the right hand side, if I move, you can see this, the camera is moving just fine, and just how smooth it is, and everything else, all the other touch are working. The reverse as well, I press this key and this key to reverse, just works fine. So yeah, brake as well, and let's check the camera lock system, and which looks great. So yeah, let me know what other tutorials would you like me to create on this topic or any other topic in Unreal. I would love your feedback, so stay tuned for more.